Hello there. So a man is set free early from jail under this Labour scheme to empty the prisons and is now up on a murder charge. Labour emptied the prisons to free up cells for the so-called far-right rioters, and in the process released some very questionable types back into society. And now we hear from the Times that this man was charged with murder over an incident that occurred after his early release from prison. He was released to reduce overcrowding in prisons, said the report. And the Telegraph points to a large increase of prisoner recalls to jail after the scheme came into operation, showing the increased risk these early release prisoners pose to the rest of us. Now, the Tory Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick, in a peak episode of amnesia over his party's huge contribution to this problem, said, "Since taking office, Labour have let out 38,000 prisoners early, many of whom are hardened offenders who simply cannot be rehabilitated. It's putting the British people at risk every day. It doesn't have to be like this. The answer is to deport the record number of foreign nationals clogging up our jails and get the courts sitting round the clock to reduce the number of people in prison on remand." You'd think the Tories had been out of power for 14 years, not being in power and being a major cause of this mess in the first place, wouldn't you? But remember, Labour was in opposition over those last 14 years, and I do not recall them constantly arguing for more money to be spent on more prisons to keep us safe. Do you? No, they were more intent on spending more on foreign aid and the like, as well as screaming about opening the borders and setting up easy routes for asylum seekers. And now they want us to believe that they have the protection of the British population at heart, when nothing could be further from the truth. Neither Labour nor the Tories have the track record to be able to claim they are about national security and law and order. In fact, they both keep harping on about working with our partners around the world to stop this. Whether it be Rwanda or France and Germany or the Balkans. Anything to keep our eyes staring into the distance and not right here at home where the real problem of pull factors lies. Both parties are internationalist setups, where the main aim is the destruction of the nation state in favour of global governance by experts. And this sort of incident is a prime example of where that sort of thinking takes us. And really, how many of those MPs and Lords do you think really cares about this country, other than what they can get out of it? And all the virtue signalling they can do by taking our money and spending it like drunken sailors on the undeserving. Now a quick interjection. Most of you watching right now aren't subscribed, so here's what you need to do after liking this video. Press the subscribe button, then hit the little bell and select all, and ensure your YouTube app is set to accept notifications. That way you'll get every single video the moment we release it. And if you don't, you're going to miss out. And now we come to the Just Stop Oil activists. Remember them? They used to go around getting in the way of commuters, damaging works of art, and in this case, spraying colourants all over Stonehenge. Remember that one? That is before the vast majority of them went all pro-Pally and ended up wearing keffiyehs and goose-stepping about London screaming, "From the river to the sea." Anyway, These 3 Just Stop Oil activists were charged in 2024 with criminal damage and causing a public nuisance after they used 2 colour blasters to spray the Stonehenge monument with cornflour, talc and orange dye. But despite all the evidence, including the video footage, a Crown Court jury found them not guilty on all charges, based on the judge's remarks and their defence of exercising their freedom of expression and freedom of assembly under human rights laws. And because the jury spoke, as I understand it, there can be no appeal except on very extreme grounds. So, these 3 are innocent. They never did it. Now, the judge in this case gave legal directions, saying the jury had to assess where the balance lies, and whether convicting the 3 would be a proportionate interference with the rights of the defendants. And here was little old non-legally qualified me thinking the idea for a modern jury was to assess whether the defendants had, beyond a reasonable doubt, committed a crime. Then the judge decides on the sentence, if applicable. But in this case, the judge appears to me to actually be reminding the jury system of their old traditional English rights of giving the law a kicking when it wrongly tried to convict people. But does that apply here? Was it right for the judge to have hinted at this? And I wonder how many judges had these thoughts circling their brains while dealing with Lucy Connolly and Peter Lynch. And I wonder how many juries hearing other more common criminal cases are given this type of pep talk. And I do have to wonder if this will be yet another case reinforcing the beliefs of those who believe they have the moral high ground and so emboldening them to further and into more extreme acts of free expression in the future. I also further wonder if the CPS will be looking at these types of cases and thinking, well, what's the point? The people in the form of jurors don't think it's criminal, so let's just allow certain activists to do their worst with no consequences. And if this CPS cave in like that, then the police will just assume that physical protest is all okay and cease to arrest people for such activity. Because a jury of the people has spoken and no one can argue. I mean, why fill up jail cells with those who will be let free the next day with no charge? To the point that eco-nutters can wander about the place, targeting financial institutions and manufacturers they've taken a dislike to, and vandalise away with no repercussions. And then maybe moving on to vandalising every vehicle they can find. And if they hurt someone in the process, or worse, well, that was just an accident, wasn't it? But if an activist gets hurt by someone defending themselves or their property, stand by for a lengthy jail term. And don't you dare put a post up on X condemning the activists. Overall, we really are on the handcart to hell, aren't we? Finally, please like, subscribe and comment below, and a big shout out to our channel membership and Patreon supporters. And thank you for watching.